Okay, this video is about PPC software and should you use it. So a lot of people come to us at our firm and ask, when they start or at some point in the future if they should be using the software to manage their PPC accounts. And I usually tell them the same thing, which is I have never used PPC software myself. And that's for a pretty good reason. I'm going to share that reason and with you today on today's video, explain to you where PPC software does actually come into play, where you could actually use it and would have a use for you and your company, but all the reasons why it won't be basically useful for you 95% of the other times and for most companies out there. So anyway, I have a list here of things that are going to go over and explain to you everything that you basically need to know at a high level about PPC software, where and when you would use it, and the pros and cons. I want to start off by saying, as well, just because I don't use PPC software doesn't mean no other person that uses it or any other person that uses it is, necessarily doing anything wrong. This is all my personal opinion. I mean, I've been managing accounts for 15 years now, and looked at accounts that have ran different software to manage the accounts. And that said, I have my own opinion, and doesn't mean there is no other situation or scenario where it could be used outside of what I'm saying here. So I'm just going to give you, though, my honest and humble opinion about what is going on with PPC software. And given that it's getting to be more and more common, there's the last 2 or 3 years there's more software that's been coming out that are seemingly the trend is going to more so using software, even though the trend itself started about 10 years ago. So anyway, the first thing is that you should look at if you're going to use software is ask yourself why you're using it. If the reason that you're using the software is to try to avoid paying a management fee to a firm to help you manage the account, or just to avoid managing it yourself, and assume that it's gonna take care of everything for you, you'll be sorely mistaken if you try that. Of course, you may know, or maybe you don't know, that you're gonna have to set up your campaigns and your ads in your account for most softwares, which is the hard part actually about setting up an account. And so you're going to have to do that either way. And given that if you don't go ahead and spend a decent amount of time setting up your campaigns, you aren't going to get results no matter what, basically, out of that software. It's garbage in, garbage out. And so, basically, the software adds to a good strategy, a good base strategy that you've come up with for your account, with the understanding of PPC, how it works, what you should basically do with it. More so, I would say, me personally, that it should be mostly used in the hands of somebody who already knows how to do PPC, if anything anyway, which kind of defeats the purpose of why most people want to use it. But essentially, I'm going to explain now what is the PPC software is good for. So basically, the different scenarios that I've found with looking at other accounts over the almost 1,000 or more accounts that I've looked at to today's date in the last 15 years is any account that has a very large list of SKUs, product SKUs. At an e-commerce company, we're talking more than 100,000 SKUs. The software could come in quite handy to manage the bids. You can apply a strategy and then push it out and get a good enough quote-unquote bid adjustment result all through your account in relatively short periods of time. Doing that, manual adjustment is still better, but it can be useful in that type of situation to update a bunch of ads. You may want to run sale ads, basically like on a text ad, good for this month only, right on the search ad, which I use those a lot. But to update 1,000, 10,000 ads, obviously you can do it through Google AdWords editor and so on and so forth. Some of those software tools can help you, you can filter out stuff better, make it overall easier, and then you can automate through using software. There's some different scenarios, mainly being though you have a really large account. And if the software itself, if you take it, usually where it will work out the best too is, so even if you set up your campaigns and you have a very large account to manage, you want to start out getting as far as you can with the account, and then once you can't really get any further, that's when you turn on the campaign. Is where I've seen it makes the most sense. And and on a smaller account, that might mean taking things 90-95% of the way, and then pretty much for the rest of the way, you can use the software to let it find different bid adjustments you can do on your own. If you just are satisfied with the good enough at that point, you probably can't turn out too bad. And still with a manual approach would do better, but that's basically the type of situation there in terms of when and how to do it on that big account or on a medium-sized account. The other scenario where running software is going to work out to your advantage is if you do no management at all, and that really isn't a good excuse to use it either, because you're going to get mediocre results when you could get really good results if you just did proper manual management of the account and or hired somebody that knows enough what they are doing and cares about what they're doing, and get all of you can out of that account instead of just good enough. I mean, out of all the things you can use to make your business more profitable, managing your ad account better is pretty much the easiest thing you can do if you just have that right approach and know how to go about doing it, which is you just basically got to find the right person to put you on the right track. And so that's the other scenario that I would use it. What it's not good for, so it's not a set it and forget it approach to doing PPC management. I mentioned that on the beginning part of this video. That's what most people are trying to use the software for, and then when they realize they can't do it and they are trying to save on hiring an expert that can run several $1,000s a month or more, they'll try to use the software because it's cheaper or what have you. Not all softwares are cheaper, of course. Some are very expensive. But if you do that, you'll be lucky to have your account to be profitable. It may not be profitable at all doing that. Certainly if you're in a competitive market. If you're not in a competitive market, maybe it'll be okay. That's, I guess I would say, the main thing is you're not going to be able to avoid putting in the hard work of managing the account and do things that you normally would have to do, that besides the more fine-tuning of what you're doing with the account, the software is also going to be able to use it. If you have a whole bunch of data to look at, be able to draw conclusions and make do things that you couldn't necessarily do on your own. That's certainly the case as well. But to be able to do stuff that you could easily manage yourself or through what a human could do, that's what I would handle that through a human. Instead of using the software, that you shouldn't use the software or rely on the software to do stuff that you could do manually on your own, because you're going to get much better results that way. And so, and with that said, basically just taking that one step further, the humans will be able to manage, or yourself will be able to manage your account better than the software will, because the software can't pick up the small nuances about what makes your business unique, specifically about the products and services that you offer, the unique the unique value proposition you bring, and because the software, it's what it's good at is doing bid adjustments, and when things are fairly well set up already, like I had said, and even within that, there's things that are unique to your business that certain keywords that taking off one little bit of the keyword will make a big difference. And the software itself doesn't understand at that level very well how to take off stuff that would really cause a lot of waste that you would instantly be able to spot if you were looking at the account yourself. And basically what you're ultimately looking to do is use your judgment as the human going in there and managing the account. Use your learnings about some of the logical stuff, and so that if you make a big mistake, you won't be able to make it again. Whereas the software kind of does, the premise is that it does that same thing, but it does it through rote process of elimination. So it'll test a whole bunch of things through machine learning, figure out what doesn't work, but it takes a lot of testing of different random things versus using logic to figure out what should be tested or not, for the most part, and then ultimately gets to the same conclusion eventually once you've spent a lot of money. So, which brings me in my next part. It's very expensive running the software. If we're not excluding the part about the management software fees, the monthly fees that you have to pay for that software, because the software only can look at the data as is, and it can only test things in a linear format where it's going to go through all the possible permutations of how to do something, and then it may try to draw some conclusions on its own, but for the most part, it's going to have to go through all the different scenarios to figure out what works. You're easily, by what I've seen, pretty much, and distilling it down for myself and looking at a few dozen accounts that have it, 10 times more to get to the same point in time that you would get at with a manual, like somebody who really knows what they're doing with a human managing the account, in terms of the money it takes to get to a certain level of profitability or ROI from a set amount of campaigns. So if money is not an object to you and you just want to set it and forget it, it will certainly do that for you, but you're going to spend 10 times more getting to that same point. To get in, if you're basically you don't have a lot of money starting out, you're not going to get there with software. You should totally avoid it in that case. If you're a big company and money isn't so much an issue and you don't want to deal with an agency, it can actually do that job well. And so that would be a situation where I would say that it might be okay to use it in that sense. You have a big account, money's not so much an issue, fast turnaround on your money or quick to initial profitability isn't so hard. You can just use the software. It will find the eventual set of settings that you need to get a good return out of your account. And I've never been in a situation on my sixth point here that I've not been able to outdo the software because I understand all the stuff. And again, I can use logic to eliminate possibilities that I know won't work before they're tested, which is the big part of why you don't want to use software. And if you have access to somebody who knows what they're doing, and I'm not talking a little bit, like I said, you're literally going to get there 10 times faster. And from that, maybe eventually the software will be able to do a better job managing a huge account the rest of the way for the last little bit, because it could look at a whole pool of data and draw some conclusions I couldn't necessarily get on my own. But everything else, I'm going to do much, much better and save a lot of money to get to that initial state of profitability, which for the most part, we're talking, 90+% of companies need, right? So anyway, I just wanted to put a frame of reference around that. Yeah, of course, it's really hard finding a PPC company or expert that knows what they're doing, not only knows what they're doing, but is willing to do all the work. Most of getting the results, more than half, is just being willing to put in the grunt work, to have, one keyword per ad, SCAG model of setting up an ad account, doing, lots of banner ads for marketing strategies with, your reviews and stuff on it to sell to your user after they leave the site, just all these other smaller things that, when you combine all this knowledge about how to manage accounts together, you're going to get a good result. And but my point is that those people exist. They're not cheap. Agencies out there exist other than ours to be able to do a good job, but you got to be aware that 90% of people aren't going to either know what they're doing or do enough or care to do enough. They're not incentivized to do enough, and then in that case, what I wouldn't apply necessarily. Maybe the software would be better if they didn't. You got to have all those things added together to really make it work, and so. Whereas I never use software, certainly there could be a case, like I said, for you to use it. There's always a time and place for everything. never is a strong word, and when it comes to doing marketing, it's a hard word to use as well as always. And so if you are going to use the software, you're probably already having a fairly profitable account, and you're ready to take it to the next level. You've plateaued your results. You can't really get much more out of it through manual adjustment. And once you've already had the top best expert look at it, then maybe that software can come in for use for you at that time, take you a little bit further. So in any case, that's pretty much what everything about PPC software. If you're looking for a smaller software, I don't want to name any names, for a smaller business that you're running, pretty much just stay away from the software. If you're a bigger company, you can use it. Companies like Acquisio has a good product. I've seen good results with that after you've done 90+% of the grunt work to set everything up, take things the rest of the way, and ultimately do things like keep your ads, to update them for sales or different events that you're using quickly, easily, using some scripting that the software allows, and do better management, but also still behind an expert that can help, just as a tool like a hammer to leverage their ability to do what they would already do manually, that just get it done a little faster, just a little bit more efficient. So that's what it really comes down to PPC software, where it makes sense. If you have a question about whether you should stop using your software or when to use it, go ahead and reach out to my firm. We'd be happy to help put that into perspective for you. And I hope this video really helped you. Make sure to watch the rest of my videos. I have videos just like this on a number of other topics. You can find that on my channel, and please subscribe.